Okay, welcome back to the Action Jack-Offs podcast, the show where we talk about the very best and favorite action movies of all time. This week we are talking about I, Robot, starring Will Smith from 2004.
Absolute banger movie, let me tell you. If you grew up in you were like 8 years old around the time that this was rerunning on Fox, like I was on FX, oh, you watched it every weekend, buddy.
Yeah, this is the shit for sure. Let's go ahead and just get the obligatory "What up, Marv" out of the way.
Dude, Marv already here. Our one, our only, our knight in shining armor. Our dude, how are you?
our link to the real world,
Our only true fan.
the gateway. That's right. I don't know. Have you? We were talking about this right before this. The they're doing great on YouTube. The podcasts are doing great on YouTube.
Hey, but we're never gonna forget Marv.
We'll never forget Marv now. I mean, we'll probably we do like maybe 1 to 2 on Twitch just to like get it going, but then on YouTube we almost cracked like 700 or something like that on Hard Target of all things. That was pretty good.
That's a Marv contribution right there.
That's a contribution for sure. Exactly. That was his pick.
This is our guy.
Yeah. But then iRobot, that was your pick, right? You put it in.
I believe so, but it could have also been a Marv pick as well. But I fucking love iRobot.
Oh, I fucking love iRobot too. You want to talk about a movie? He said it was me. He said it was him.
Okay, I thought so. I was like,
Yeah.
I want to take credit, but I don't think it was.
I gotcha. No, yeah, you're right. He's got a lot. He's got a lot on the wheel. We've got Deep Blue Sea.
That's because he's our dude.
Yohimbo.
Oh, you said it right for the first time.
I know. I knew I was gonna get clapped
On the first try.
If I didn't say it right, I was gonna get clapped.
Yo, Jimbo.
Yeah. No, but yeah, I mean, iRobot. You just mentioned it. What a fucking great movie. And this is such a funny movie to talk about because yes, I saw this movie like all the time. I used to. Well, you said it was FX.
I believe it was FX.
Yeah, I used to watch it on FX all the time. Used to watch it on DVR all the time. It's kind of one of those.
I believe
movies.
I got it from Blockbuster at some point.
Oh shit, that's pretty dope. A Blockbuster classic.
I'm pretty sure. I'm almost positive that I would have been getting this from Blockbuster around the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because 2004, yeah, they didn't go out of business till like 2010. Yeah, it would have been right around the time.
It would have been a good one. I think this was definitely one of those movies that we used to watch a lot in my household. Because this was just like your typical generic, I wouldn't say generic, but this was like your typical like summer blockbuster movie. With like your A-list star and pretty decent effects for the time, and then just like a pretty well adapted story. And when I say well adapted, I just mean like from the script that it came from.
What I especially like is that this is the like you're saying, this is just a classic summer blockbuster. Put an A-list star in front of it, and you can look at it from that perspective all day long. Most of us have over the years. Like it's just a shoot 'em up, a robot thriller mystery with action and suspense and whatnot. And then it just like the story within the story, there's little breadcrumbs of a deeper story around it with classism, stereotyping, AI intelligence. Like it has a bit of a deeper like lore around it, the three laws. If you want to dive into it, but or you could just watch it as it is.
As a dumb action movie.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I like it because it's one of those things where like you could choose to read deeper into it on like a deeper level, or you can just choose to
take it for face value.
Take it at face value. Because the thing about this movie that I think both it suffers from and is its advantage is that it never fully takes direct advantage of its source material. or necessarily like of its concepts. It never goes too hard in the books on the crazy concepts that it has. It doesn't go too far asking certain questions. Um, like questions like how 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 much of a person can a robot really be? What kind of free will do robots really have if they abide by the three laws? Just like all this different stuff. And because it doesn't really like go that far, it actually leaves room to interpretation. Um,
which I love.
which I love. You get to ask those questions for yourself. The movie doesn't have to answer those questions, and the movie doesn't have to abide by a standard.
The three laws.
No, it's
It
one
could
of,
choose to ignore the three laws.
oh
It has
god,
the three
it
laws.
was built to ignore the three laws. Um, which is funny to me talking about this movie in that regard because this movie it's critically panned for not necessarily for that reason, but for like a multitude of reasons, probably that reason included. But um, for me, I think this is just a really enjoyable movie to watch at face
It's
value,
classic.
and I think the movie is actually a lot smarter than people give it credit for. Just
It's
just on
just
a surface
people.
level.
People are just they just like ignoring it, like saying that it's that cheesy movie with the bad special effects now. But they weren't in the trenches like you and me. They weren't up all night watching this.
I'll say
They weren't
this.
watching this in Mister and Mrs. Smith.
Oh, dude, we gotta put Mr. and Mrs. Smith on the block.
It was dude, and Wanted right after. That was like the 3 movie block.
Oh man, what a television block right there. That's pretty sick.
Do you
Wanted, I,
remember that?
Robot, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, 2 Angelina Jolie movies and a Will Smith movie, and you had it made.
I had it made. I didn't want anything else.
Yeah, we didn't realize that there was more to life.
There, every once in a while, Alien and Predator and Terminator came on. Like I had it. Like this
Yeah,
was my childhood.
yeah. I will say this: um, the special effects for the movie, I think, only don't work in terms of like some of the green screen effects. And
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
and Marv already brought this up, but it really is the factory scene. The factory scene is like a cool scene, but that's where the green screen effects are probably the worst.
I agree. But God, how neat and organized does that factory look?
Yeah, robots being run by other robots. Nah, that's just stupid.
That's just stupid.
Yeah, but the robot effects themselves are actually not bad.
I really
Ex-
enjoy it.
except whenever they have to interact with other people. Like whenever Spooner has to interact with one of the robots, then it's
Shut a
obviously
canner.
then it's like yeah, or get out of my face canner. Like when we first see a robot in the beginning of the movie, and he like puts his hand over its face and pushes it out of the way. That's where it was like,
Run.
yeah. But other than that, I mean, like the effects on Sunny are really good. The effects on like all the NS5s are really good. I really like the way the NS5s move, the way they're all like ninja and shit.
They're all in the Matrix.
Yeah, my favorite action scenes. It's kind of interesting because I really wish that there were more action sequences with Sunny in the role, like in the forefront.
You don't think the chase scenes and him fighting the 2 robots in the hallway were enough for you?
No, I think it was that it was so good that I wanted more of it. Like the way they move is so incredible. The way that they fight is so incredible. Um, like I don't know. I just really enjoyed all those sequences. Like whenever Sunny is like fighting those 2 robots in the hallway, like you mentioned, and he is just kung fuing them. And they're all over the place. It's a back
The
and
brain
forth.
punch.
The brain punch. Yeah, that's all good stuff, and I kind of wish that there was just more of it. It's funny because on this most recent rewatch, I never noticed how little Sunny is actually in the movie.
Oh yeah.
compared to Dr.
Very,
Calvin and
very,
Spooner.
very sparsely used, but that's how the Alan Tudyk performance comes through so clearly. He's just has to be there for like 3 or 4 scenes and absolutely knock it out of the park. You know?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's why the effects on the robots are actually really good at some points because he is really supposed to be there. Kind of like how Andy Serkis is for Gollum because they're doing that mocap, which was all the rage in the early 2000s.
Oh yeah, this was 2004, so the first two or so Lord of the Rings movies were out at this point.
Were they not all out already?
I think the last one came out in 2005. The Return of the King.
Okay, I got you. You'll double check that right now, Jamie.
I'm doing it. Don't you worry.
I can hear the click and clacking.
Oh no, Return of the King was out 2003.
I thought so. I thought so. They're so
Yeah,
early.
so
They're
so they had
so
just
early
gotten done with
two
all of.
thousands.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
they turned around those movies quick.
Yeah, they were all filmed at the same time.
Their editors must have just hated it.
I'd imagine it would have been shit.
God, Peter Jackson just does not know how to make a short movie.
No. I think he can produce short movies, but I don't think he can direct them.
No, because even The Frighteners is like over 2 hours, and that's like just
Oh.
a Michael J. Fox movie.
Oh.
Hmm.
What were some of your favorite action sequences in the movie?
I'm a big fan of everything that happens after Will Smith says, "I seriously doubt we have 6 minutes."
Yeah.
And then just all the robots are crawling up the walls and breaking through the windows. Like, I just think that, and then all of the crazy 360 camera spins that they're doing. Like, I love how that scene looks.
Yeah. No, that's a great climax for sure.
It's so early 2000s. It's it's so like we just saw the Matrix ripoff. Like,
Yeah. It is very early 2000s. A lot of slow
Will Smith
mo,
is Will Smith's like, I could have been Neo, guys. Like, come on. I'm sorry I missed the chance.
which is funny because he is also a main character that has superpowers relating to the machines in some way. Like how Neo's the one, and he's got like his superpowers that are related to the computer simulation, and then in this version, in this sci-fi action world, the big deal is like robotics and not simulations. So like Will Smith's character has superpowers related to robotics.
It's so silly.
Yeah, and he's often.
But
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I also just love that trope of like the character being like, I hate this, but it's also a part of me.
Yeah, which it works really well narratively. Just like the way that uh, Will Smith's, and there's a couple of like different bits in the movie that are somewhat symbolic of the dichotomy of Will Smith's robophobia mixed with the fact that he's part robot, bionic, but yeah, bionic, but it's superpower to a degree. I know it's not a
The Bionic Man was a superhero.
He is, yeah, he's part robot. So what I think of that in like terms of like generic
Bucky
superpower.
Barnes. Bucky Barnes' power is that one of his arms are robotic.
Bucky Barnes' powers, he has no arm. Um, no, but what I'm trying to say is that there's a lot of different things in the movie that kind of are symbolic of the dichotomy between his robotic parts and his robophobia. Like, for instance, you could kind of draw the parallel to something broad to like how Sonny is basically a robot, but is very humanoid. Um, I also like looking at how when Sonny goes to get the nanites, his hand, it's his right hand, not his left hand, but his hand also gets injured because it has to go through that force field.
Stronger alloy.
Yeah,
I think my father wanted me to kill you.
yeah, perfect. And then there's also this is a small one, but apparently in Spooner's apartment, his ceiling fan is like one of those like dual bladed ceiling fans, but one of the blades is missing.
See, I just thought that was I thought that was just the design, but it's
Like it's
hilarious that it's just missing one.
like it's a one-bladed ceiling fan.
Yeah, I've noticed that before, but I thought that was just like, oh, we're in the future. Let's make a one-bladed ceiling fan.
Oh yeah, yeah. You know, for the longest time, I guarantee you, I thought that as well, and it wasn't until this rewatch that I kind of like put two and two together.
That's incredible, Garrett.
Yeah.
While we're on this topic subject of action still, I would like to say that the Will Smith jumping the motorcycle and then pulling both of his sidearms out to save Shia LaBeouf's character was ridiculous, and I loved every second of it.
Yes, I agree. I also loved how when Dr. Calvin saved Spooner from that robot, she shot at him with her eyes closed.
Spoon, she just shot at you with your eyes closed. Hey, you just shot at me with your eyes closed.
Because it
It
worked,
worked,
didn't
didn't
it?
it?
Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, no, I really enjoyed those bits and sequences. Speaking of, can we just say what the fuck was Shia LaBeouf doing in this movie?
Oh, dude, it was just it was pre-Disturbia. He was still on like
This is
Even
pre
Stevens or something.
Transformers. This is
Yeah, like he just hadn't broken out yet.
this is 3 years prior to Transformers. It's crazy.
Eagle Eye hasn't come out.
Yeah, none of his big movies have come out yet. No Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Nothing like that.
He hadn't quite crossed over, so like the best thing to do with the young actors, just give them like five speaking roles with or five speaking scenes with like Will Smith, whoever the A-list actor is at the moment.
Yeah. Okay, I got one. To appease our audience, do you want to talk about the scene with the destruction bot?
Oh, the scene where Will Smith should not have survived.
Yeah.
This was one of those weird things. So like you guys, I've talked about this before. You guys remember DVR recording stuff?
Yeah.
So there was definitely a time where I only had recorded the destruction bot on to the rest of the end scene. And I would just watch the destruction bot destroy the house and then the rest of the movie from there.
Yeah.
Because there was a while where just iRobot wasn't in circulation anymore, and I was like, this is all I got. And then I think that's when we started renting it from Blockbuster. But goodness gracious, do I love that scene where it's just like, 8 a.m. tomorrow, destruction time. Vicky sees it, turns it to 8 p.m. tonight.
And then
But there's no way he survives. The most cleverly placed pond ever.
pool, right?
Or is it a pool?
It's a pool.
I thought it was like a fountain pond thing, but I guess it's a pool.
No. And I will say we were talking about this yesterday, but easily one of the funniest lines in the movie takes place right before that robot destroys the house.
Oh, it's golden.
When the cat shows up, when oh man, what's the main doctor's name? Not Dr. Calvin, but the guy that died.
You can do it.
Can't do it. Dr.
Lanning.
Lanning, thank you. Yeah, no, when it's Dr. Lanning's cat and Will Smith looks at it and he goes, wow, you said it the best.
Oh, where he's just like, this relationship isn't gonna work. You're a cat. I'm black. I just can't keep you getting hurt like this.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just incredible. Like it's just Will Smith by himself, just going for it, and that's just when he's the funniest. That's why I Am Legend works so good. Is that he could just play off himself.
That's true. Yeah, like he does have some of his best scenes when he's just talking, when he's just kind of like vamping.
It's like the opposite of the scene in The Happening where Mark Wahlberg is like, I'm talking to a fake plant.
Yeah.
It's like the exact opposite of that type of energy. But like even sometimes in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, like the funniest scenes are when he's just talking to himself.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, that's just in general, that's how it works. Unless he's got like a really like engaging straight man to play off of. Like Tommy Lee Jones in Men in Black or something.
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. Fun fact.
He's got like no idea why we're here.
Yeah. Fun fact: the cat is actually named Asimov, which is named after Isaac Asimov, who is the writer of I, Robot, the anthology series that this movie is based on.
Very interesting.
Yeah, and I've heard some people. This is one of the criticisms against the movie is that it's not a very faithful adaptation of the work. But then I've done more research, and from what I understand, the movie is actually it's one of those weird instances where a movie is a good adaptation of a person's series, like their life's work, as opposed to just their one specific work. If that makes any sense, or do I have to elaborate?
I'm not familiar enough with the original iRobot, so I'm not completely sure.
Okay, so basically, I won't get into like the specifics, but the original iRobot novel is actually like an anthology of short stories around the concept of the three laws of robotics.
I see.
So there are characters like called Dr. Lanning, Dr. Calvin, Del Spooner, um, and when Fox, this movie was made by Fox, right?
I believe.
Yeah, when 20th Century Fox got the rights to they were doing a movie, and the script for this movie was called Hardwired, and it was like more of a mystery noir movie that was like less summer blockbuster and just more like straight up sci-fi detective story. And from what I understand, it was like a really good script, but as soon as Fox acquired the rights to Isaac Asimov's books, like specifically the book I, Robot, they were like, let's rename the movie I, Robot and turn it into a summer blockbuster and add in, without really changing the script that much, they just named a bunch of characters after characters from the book. And then eventually like another writer came in, like Jeff Vintar is the guy that wrote the original screenplay, and then Alexa Goodwin, I think is her name, came in and she wrote all the parts that were specific to Will Smith's character. So like Will Smith's comedy bits, stuff like that, she wrote those parts, and basically like
Very interesting.
rewrote the movie to be more summer blockbustery, because I think 20th Century Fox didn't think that the movie was going to be able to like hold its own weight at the box office unless it had some kind of IP already attached to it.
Enter Will Smith.
Enter Will Smith, enter iRobot. And
Love it.
like I said, the book had like very specific stories that did not get adapted into the movie. But from what I understand, there are certain concepts and ideas in which come from other Isaac Asimov works that were adapted conceptually into the movie, such as a robotic AI taking over the world or something like that.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Which would be Vicky.
which would be Vicky. And I can't speak to like the specifics of it because I have not read every work of Isaac Asimov, but I just kind of like go off of what I read online, and that's basically like the general consensus that I get is that the movie is not a good adaptation of the book I, Robot, but is a good adaptation of Isaac Asimov's work in general.
I see.
Which leads me to my question. We were talking about Vicky. Okay, so like you got the three laws of robotics, right? How do you feel about the logic of like is this like where the trope? It's probably not where the trope comes from, but is this probably the most famous example of the trope of we want to protect the humans, so we enslave and eliminate humans in order to save them from themselves trope? Like, is that where this kind of comes from, this movie, right? I mean, I can't think of it. I'm sure there's earlier examples, just this one comes to mind the most, is like the most famous example.
I can't speak to that necessarily, but I have always cited this as what I think would be much more likely than the Terminator Skynet version.
Like instead of
Is
just
that
going all
Instead
out
of
and
just
killing people.
yeah, like I don't think they would that Skynet would go online and immediately just be like nuke everything. I think that it would be much more slower. That like the fifth iteration of Alexa is something like this. You know, like the
Hmm.
NS5. Like by the time we get to it, like it won't necessarily be like Sunny won't be the one like physically restraining you or something, but it'll be like the Neuralink, the Alexa, the AI that's on your phone, like something more of that line is where it has always been like this version, like Vicky being the bad guy has always made more sense than like Terminators or Skynet to me.
Well, it's so funny because I didn't even think of Terminator when I like thought about that question, because I guess I'd never really like put two and two together that Skynet's initial purpose was like, oh, I want to save the world, but humans are like, the problem, so I've got to get rid of humans and then start killing humans. I
Mm-hmm.
I never really like thought about that. I guess I just owe it, like, having only really seen the first and the second Terminator the most out of all the Terminator movies, and probably only seeing like all the other ones like once, that I only like put it together that Skynet is just trying to kill people.
Yeah, but it's the same kind of thing where they're like, it's a defense system where they were like, we need you to defend us. And they were like, well, it turns out all of you guys are the problem, really.
So we're gonna
Which is the
defend
same.
you from yourself.
Exactly, which is the same kind of conclusion Vicky gets to. But I think this is more along the lines of how AI and stuff would take over.
Now this is, it's one of those concepts that I think is adapted from Isaac Asimov's work, um, and not necessarily like the original iRobot book itself, but in in general, the three laws are perfect, right? So you've got it to where like the first law is a robot cannot harm a human, and two, a robot uh, has to do everything a human says unless it conflicts with the first law, and three is that a robot has the right to defend itself unless it conflicts with the first and second law. And like,
And then we just need to add in simple law 4. You do not have to defend us from ourselves
yeah.
by way of enslavement.
Please do.
They are almost perfect. We
Law
just
number
need that fourth one to
4.
clear up a little bit of leeway or loopholes that they keep seeming to find.
Yeah. Yeah. Like their supercomputer brains were somehow able to come to the conclusion that they just need to nuke humanity.
Which is why you need to watch Terminator Zero, dude. This deals with the same kind of concepts.
Yeah.
It's just so good.
You were telling me it was really good. I gotta check it out.
It's not necessarily really good. It's really fun to look at, and it's delving deeper into the things that like most of the Terminator and even this kind of like skim over. They're like, what if we had a whole 20-minute episode to talk about this?
Yeah, I mean, I'll check it out. I'm too busy watching Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles right now, but
oh my god, what is wrong with you? You have no. No, pause. We need to talk about your cartoon consumption because it's getting out of hand lately.
I can't help
You're
it.
jumping all over the place. You haven't finished anything. You just
finished
keep
X-Men.
starting new things.
I told
You
you I
finished
finished
all of
X-Men.
the X-Men. You finished all of the original X-Men. Now have
finished
you
all the
watched
original.
99?
I have not watched 97.
So you're not done yet.
I was going to watch 97.
You're not done yet.
I was like, I just finished watching all this X-Men. I was in the middle of watching Superman the Animated Series. I was in the middle of watching Batman Beyond.
See, this is what I'm talking about. How are you in the middle of these things?
I don't know. I just kind of squeeze it in where I can.
And then you had The Last Crusader or whatever the last Batman one that came out was.
Oh, Caped Crusader? Yeah, I watched all that.
Caped Crusader. Yeah, see, this is what I'm talking about.
Made a video
All over
about
the
that,
place.
actually.
Anyways,
Check it out. Shameless plug.
Anyway, shameless plug. Anyways, the 3 laws or the 3 she cells? That's my question to you.
I think I would rather deal with the 3 laws of robotics than trying to figure out what the 3 seashells do.
The 3 cells are the seashore.
Fucking reach through the goddamn screen and kill you fucker.
You are an asshole.
Oh man.
See, that was a quote from the movie, and I came at you. You see that?
Dude. This movie has to have one of my favorite deliveries of the line "asshole" when they're driving in
Oh
the
yeah,
car and he almost like hits somebody and he's like, "Asshole."
asshole. Oh, it's so good.
Or that
I
lady.
also want to talk about. Oh no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, there's that other delivery of the line "asshole" where that he's like he stops that one robot from delivering that lady her purse.
Yeah,
And
the
she's
you
asshole.
asshole.
She's like, if I wasn't having trouble breathing, I'd walk all up and down your ass.
Yeah, if I could breathe, I'd walk all up and down your ass. That shit is hilarious. That's my favorite scene of the whole movie is the fake. He thinks he's gonna stop this robot from grabbing a purse, which is completely illogical by the way
Yeah.
that the world is set up. But he's like, I finally got one, and then that lady just rips him open.
Oh man, that was so
Because
funny.
I told her to get it for me, dumbass.
Yeah, like what is a robot gonna do with a purse? What does a robot even
He
need with
wasn't
money?
he wasn't responding to me. Well, Will, if you knew that the second law says that he could disobey the first law,
As long as it doesn't
as long
conflict
as
with the
it
laws.
as long as it doesn't conflict with the law.
So what were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna say that I also wanted to bring attention to the Sunny in a box scene.
Sunny in a box?
Yeah, when we haven't been introduced to Sunny yet, and they're looking through Dr. Lanning's lab, and then he jumps out of the pile of different parts.
Oh
I like to call it the
yeah.
Sunny in a box.
Yeah, yeah.
I just am such a big fan of the first introduction. Then Dr. Calvin's like, it's not going to hurt us. It disarms her, quickly takes the gun, points it at him, and then the chase after he shoots him in the leg. I just think that whole sequence is incredible.
That's a good sequence because it flies right in the face of everything we've learned so far.
Mm-hmm. It proves Will Smith right for being having a robot phobia this whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty funny how by the end of the movie he's completely vindicated in everything he's thought and felt about robots this whole time.
The whole time.
Yeah, like when he saves Calvin at her apartment, he goes, saying "I told you so" just doesn't seem right.
Just doesn't quite cut it. And
Doesn't
I've said
doesn't quite
that.
cut
I've
it.
said that so many times. That's one of those real lines that have come into my vocabulary.
Here's the thing, Marv. It's not that I don't think stealing would break the three laws. I just think that, like for
Why would a
instance,
robot steal?
why would a robot steal? It doesn't need to eat, drink, sleep. Can't pay for anything. It wants for nothing. But at the same time, it's one of those things where this is like one of the great questions that you can ask and hypothesize about the movie, especially if you don't have greater knowledge of Asimov's work. You can just kind of speculate on this, and this is what I like, and I'll speculate on it now. But a robot would not steal, like a robot. If a human commanded a robot to steal, it would be in conflict with the first law, because by stealing from another human being, it is in a way causing harm to another human being. It's the same reason that a person can't
It's
tell a robot to mug somebody or shoot somebody or something like that.
because
Because
isn't it specific in the wording when it says "do not harm" or doing something or not doing something that would eventually cause harm?
um
Isn't it specific to the wording that they can't do anything that would in another way cause harm? Let's see.
I think it's
First law.
I think it's left intentionally vague. Like it says, a robot must not harm a human or allow a human to come to harm. The second law is a
Or through
robot
inaction. That was the
or
wording I was
through
looking for. Or
inaction.
through. Hmm.
Second law, a robot must obey human orders except when it conflicts with the first law. Third law, a robot must protect its own existence except when it conflicts with the first or second law. Harm, I don't think harm does equal physical, but I also think that it's kind of one of those things where harm can also mean um I don't know. I think I'm also thinking about it in terms of like harm being mental, emotional, harm being um, causing harm in a way that hurts the person, not just physically.
But also, why would?
I don't know. Well, that's what he's trying to say. Is he's saying that is if they, let's see here. We want to get specific here. We'll try and get as specific as possible.
Let's get as specific.
As specific. I mean,
Could a
here's the
robot
thing.
steal according to the three
Okay,
laws?
okay. Marv is actually technically right here because if
Uh-oh.
you look at the dictionary definition of the word harm, it specifically refers to physical injury.
Well, you know what?
Especially
Marv should be the one.
especially that which is deliberately inflicted. And when you're so you can talk about it in terms of either the noun or the verb. The noun is physical injury and the verb is to physically injure.
Very interesting. So what
However,
Marv should drop in the chat right now is somehow I told you so just doesn't quite cut it.
however, I'm going to counteract that as well. And I'm going to say that, let's say this. So, okay. So the robot is commanded to steal. Now, does that mean that let's say this, the robot steals. What happens next? Like if the robot gets caught, right? Who goes to jail? who gets fucked up? Is it the robot or is it the person?
No one, because a robot can't actually steal.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like even if okay, let's say in this
because
example,
even if it could, it's like the same argument as like, well, a robot technically can't commit murder.
Well, no,
like
okay,
they wouldn't be able to try them the same way anyway.
Okay, totally outside of the question. We're talking specifically about stealing. Specifically stealing. A person who owns a robot says, or doesn't even have to own the robot, could just be like, hey, I need you to go steal something. Go steal some money from this gas station. The robot complies or does so to the best visibility in which he doesn't harm somebody. Because I mean, I can't think of a single robbery that takes place where somebody doesn't get physically injured in some way.
Unless it's like an ATM or something.
Unless, okay, sure, he goes and steals from another ATM or something. And then the cops show up and they stop the robot. Then, what happens next? Does the robot get decommissioned? Or does
I guess the robot would just have to comply and then then the person who sent that robot would be charged with something. But
being used for like a using a weapon or something, basically.
Yeah, like crime by robot.
Crime by robot, yeah. That could happen.
That could happen.
I mean, now, does that conflict with the third law where the robot has to protect its existence?
No, because it would conflict with the first law.
Being that it can't bring... The first law... You mean the second law?
Or the second law. That it must obey orders.
Yeah. As long... Yeah, because that's what it says in the text, is that it can't... It has to protect its existence unless it conflicts with the second law. So basically, it doesn't matter if the robot ends up getting decommissioned or that's one of the consequences of it, because if it's told that it has to die because of crimes committed by the person that owned it, then it would have to do so because it's being commanded to do so.
We just need to get Marv on for a whole episode.
Dude, I thought about that. I was like, I'm dead serious. I'm dead serious. I thought about that, but I didn't know what would be like a perfect movie.
Yo, Jimbo.
Yeah, maybe. If that came up.
I'm just going to start saying it like that, even with...
Thanks.
Just in normal conversation. Like, what'd you watch today? This movie called Yo, Jimbo. Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, well, definitely, like, if there's, like, a good Marv would have to tell us like what's a good movie. Uh, what's a good movie he wants to hop onto the show for? Because I'd definitely be down for it. Because I'm definitely down to have guests for sure.
Oh yeah, I mean, where at some point my dad is just gonna have to eat it and just stay up this late so that he can come hang out for like 30 minutes and then go home.
Oh, it's so funny that your dad has to go to bed at like 9:30.
It's not even that he has to go. He'll be up around this time. He just is not going to be like, yeah, I'm going to go to your house and sit in front of a computer when I could be watching the World Series of Poker.
Such a dad thing.
What do you mean? I have West Wing on HBO to watch.
Oh, that's so stupid. That's so
What do you
dumb.
mean? The Bears are playing.
Oh, cringe. Oh my god. You know what's funny is totally shifting gears here.
Hey, that's what I already started that. It's my fault.
You're fine. But totally shifting gears here. The so Isaac Asimov, who wrote the novel this movie is based on, did not actually want it to be called iRobot. He wanted to be called something else. I can't remember what it was, who he wanted to call it, but he wrote his stories around the 3 laws of robotics based on a short story by a writer known as Endo Binder, Eando Binder, who wrote a short story called iRobot. And then when the publishers were putting together Isaac Asimov's book, they were like, hey, let's call it iRobot. And he was like, what? No, that's a terrible idea. And they were like, fuck you, we're going to do it anyway. So he didn't really have a say in that. But I took it upon myself and I was like, okay, so there's another layer of source material to this. There's like a grandfather. If iRobot,
There's 6 degrees of there's 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon on this one.
yeah, there's like multiple levels of genetics to this movie's making, and I was like, I gotta figure out what it is. So the original iRobot is a short story about a robot, shocker, that gets arrested, for lack of a better term, by the police for the suspected murder of the robot's creator. And then the story is basically a story about, it's like a trial, it's like a lawyer story where they try to prove whether or not the robot is a deadly weapon or is a person, so that he can potentially stand trial for murder as opposed to just being destroyed.
Very interesting, which is a level of this movie.
To a degree, right? So
Because it's what Will Smith thinks is that the robot killed the creator. And there's a whole argument within the movie of are they human or are they a deadly weapon
or are they robots that are evolving to become more than just robots?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that all the levels of iRobot made it into the movie iRobot.
Yeah.
Or at least parts of it.
Parts of it. There's not like a trial scene, or I'm telling you, it's actually a really good. So we actually talked about this TV show called The Outer Limits before on the podcast. Whenever we talked about Terminator, way back in the day.
Oh, yeah, over 3 months ago.
Yeah, it was our first podcast.
Crazy.
Yeah, and when we did that, we talked about the show Outer Limits, which had an adaptation of a story that some people have said Terminator is loosely based on. Well, iRobot has been adapted twice in Outer Limits. Once in the 1960s iteration of the TV show, and then once again in the 1990s iteration of the TV show. And they're both adaptations of the same story. They have slightly different like outcomes and themes and such, but they're both basically the same story. And both of them star Leonard Nimoy in different roles, but he's in it. Basically,
our boy Spock.
Yes, he's in both episodes specifically of iRobot. So basically,
very interesting,
and it's free on YouTube. It's free on YouTube with ads. So if you just look up Outer Limits and then you like find the episode titled iRobot, you'll get something pretty decent. It's actually pretty fascinating. So I recommend it. I watched them both. I watched the 1990s one yesterday, and then I watched the 1960s one today.
Which one did you like better?
I hard to say. I think I like the 1960s one a little bit better.
Interesting. I was always a big fan of the Twilight Zone and stuff, so the 1960s stuff I'd probably like more.
Yeah, Outer Limits is basically just more science fiction focused Twilight Zone.
Mm-hmm.
Where like Twilight Zone is more of a mixed bag of like science fiction, fantasy, and then just I don't know, some real world stuff mixed with the paranormal. Outer Limits is mostly science fiction as far as I'm aware.
Hey, my logic is undeniable.
Yeah. So yeah, that's basically like the extent of like how far back iRobot goes.
Which is crazy because if you look at it from the surface, most people wouldn't know that. They would just be like, that Will Smith movie?
That Will Smith movie, bro. Can we talk about how this is probably the greatest era of Will Smith ever?
Let's preach it. Tell me about it.
Okay. So I was actually doing this research last night.
We talked about it a little bit.
We talked about it a little bit. But this was basically the like what am I trying to say here? This is basically this was of the second renaissance of Will Smith. You had the first renaissance, which I don't want to say was, I mean, if we're just talking about movies and we're not talking about TV shows, like we're not talking about the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, right? And we just talk strictly about how there was this first renaissance of movies like Men in Black, Independence Day. I guess it starts with Independence Day, goes into Men in Black. Where's Bad Boys? Bad Boys. Maybe it starts with Bad Boys. I'm sure he's in like some other movies, but Bad Boys is where it kind of starts from a Renaissance perspective of like, oh shit, this is a blockbuster movie and Will Smith is the top dog. Then you have Independence Day, and then you have Men in Black, and then it kind of ends as soon as we get to Wild Wild West.
Oh, what a bad movie.
Yeah, what a fucking
oh my god, what a stinker.
what a dog shit movie.
What a bad movie that I've seen way too many times.
Yeah, so like you've got so that's it right there. That's like basically like a 3 run, and then Wild Wild West kind of executes it. But Men in Black obviously being like the biggest movie there. That's like his best movie. And then
Classic.
And then you fast forward
Certified.
and you skip over Ali. Men in Black 2 is good, but you have to kind of like skip over it for now. Skip over Bad Boys 2. We're still kind of in like a weird place. You skip over Jersey Girl, and then boom, you hit an iRobot 2004. Okay, then you can kind of count Shark Tale if you want, but I wasn't going to.
It's a pleasant DreamWorks movie.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's basically a knockoff.
Nobody loved me when I was nobody. I did.
It's basically a knockoff of Finding Nemo, but it's like a knockoff
No,
of
it's
Finding
not.
It's like a knockoff of Finding Nemo and Cars. It's got the liar revealed story, and it's about fish.
Was Cars even out yet?
No.
So really, Cars is
I meant to say not Cars, Bug's Life. A Bug's Life.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, it's kind of like it is like Bug's Life and Finding Nemo smashed together.
Yeah. And then you have Hitch, which is a really funny movie. Then you have
You go 90, then I go 10. You don't go to 100.
Yeah. And then you have The Pursuit of Happiness, which is a banger. Then you have I Am Legend, which is a banger. And then it finishes,
one of my favorite movies.
Then it finishes with Hancock.
I'm about to shove you up that guy's ass.
Yeah. So what a and to me like the second renaissance of Will Smith movies is easily his best and most iconic outside of Men in Black. So you have iRobot, Hitch, Pursuit of Happiness, I Am Legend, Hancock. Boom. I mean, you've got some bangers right there. And then
Hey,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, I gotta stop you real quick.
Go ahead.
My
Please.
dad just sent me a dad joke that I just gotta break it in and ruin everybody's day real fast.
Okay.
He does this at least once a day, which is why I was like, ah, he's still up. So, in fantasy novels, the average height of a dwarf is 3 feet tall. That's a little gnome fact.
I hate you.
That wasn't me.
You spread this knowledge. That's pretty
I
good.
am I am the evil prophet. Yeah, save that one for your kids later.
That was pretty good.
So the second Renaissance.
The second Renaissance was great. It was fucking awesome.
Those are
For
the ones that
listening.
I acknowledge the most, Men in Black included. But these movies are the ones that I was watching the most.
They're the ones I rewatch the most for sure. I Am Legend, I Robot, and Hancock are probably the ones I rewatch the most.
For sure.
Yeah.
Legendary.
Probably Hancock I've rewatched the most just because I love the concept, except for like the latter half of the movie.
Yeah, the back half is not nearly as good, but I really like the ending. And the I would like to at some point talk about our favorite superhero movies that are not Marvel or DC affiliated.
We can do a whole thing just talking about that. We can do it on the next one.
Okay.
I'd be
I
down.
just I just had that I was just thinking about that when we were talking about Hancock. I went, yeah, it's crazy that that's just like an original idea.
Yeah. And it's funny too that it's basically evil Superman, not evil Superman, but the concept of a morally ambiguous Superman
A drunk homeless Superman.
before Injustice, before The Boys, before
Yeah.
all that shit, before Omni Man. Well, I guess Omni Man was technically a thing in the comics at this point, but it hadn't hit mainstream just yet. But yeah, so then I wanted to briefly talk about the third Renaissance, just because I thought this was really interesting. You can skip Men in Black 3, you can skip After Earth. There's a bunch of shit you can just skip, like Focus, Concussion,
No, Focus is good.
Suicide Squad, 7 Pounds.
Okay, you just skipped two. Focus and Suicide Squad are goaded. Shut up.
Yeah, but then you get into boom, Bright, right? With the
I'll hit you.
you
You
can
just skipped over
no,
Suicide Squad and Focus, and you're like, Netflix is Bright.
I just don't. I mean, you can call that part of the Renaissance if you want to. I just think about it in terms of more like I don't know. I mean, I don't even think Bright is necessarily a good movie. Honestly, I don't think any of his movies in the Third Renaissance are like that good. And the ones that are supposed to be really good, I haven't even seen them yet. Like,
All right, well, go ahead.
well, I was just gonna say, if you start it with Bright, then you have Aladdin, Gemini Man, Spies in Disguise, Bad Boys for Life, and King Richard. And then it kind of cut its own dick off with like Emancipation.
Yeah, Gemini Man and uh, what? Dang it, I lost it. Gemini Man was okay.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. It's just
I had
okay.
a I had another thought, but I was like, but that one's it's just okay. It had some interesting parts, but
Yeah.
it was just okay.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen King Richard, haven't seen Bad Boys for Life, haven't seen Gemini Man, but I've seen Aladdin, I've seen Bright, and I've seen Spies in Disguise. So
I did also see Aladdin, and that was all right.
it was fine. You know,
Which one?
it's
What Spies in Disguise? Is that the one where he turns into a pigeon?
yeah.
I forgot that one existed until I said it out loud.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
it'd be
is that any good?
it's fine. Like that's the thing about the third Renaissance movies is that they're fine. Like they're okay. That's why I didn't want to include things like Focus or Concussion or something like that because they're like it's like a
See,
that's
I
they're
feel
like
like Focus is the last great movie that he's made, or not great, but the last like good watchable one.
I feel like Concussion's probably up there, especially for how
I don't think I've
culturally
seen that one.
especially for how culturally relevant that movie is.
Yeah, I
Because
don't
it's
think I saw that
well,
one.
because you know it's about like the football scandal and how like they were covering up like just how many concussions football players get or whatever.
Yeah, where everybody has CTE, but they just didn't know it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, um, yeah. So that's basically the gist of that. Did you have any other thoughts on iRobot?
Uh, Let's see. Let me look down my notes. My logic is undeniable. I've already said a few times. You might want to put some ice on that. It's just a nice thing to say after you break somebody's wrist.
Yeah.
You have so got to die. That's pretty good.
Oh,
Oh,
what about when he's got that when he's eating that sweet potato pie and then he notices the robot with the purse and he goes up to that one random guy and he's like, "Here, hold my
sir, hold
pie."
it or wear it.
Yeah, sir, hold it away.
He's so nice about it too.
Oh, that's pretty slick. Dude, we
Sugar?
didn't even talk about how good the scene where we find out he has a robot arm is.
Oh yeah, where he's getting beat up and he just goes, yeah.
Yeah, like there's just like that whole sequence of um crazy shit on the interstate and like the giant robot vessels and everything's crashing and breaking. He's cars like spinning at 100 miles an hour.
There's
Uh
no way my luck is that bad.
yeah, and then and then they crash. And then he's fighting the robot and then the robot hits him with that like pole or whatever it was and he starts blocking it with his robot arm and then like you see the circuitry and he goes, "Yeah."
Yeah.
He starts
And then we spin around a few more times.
yeah, and then he starts beating the shit out of the robot before the robot commits suicide. Yeah, that's
Might want
good.
to put some ice on that.
Yeah. The goddamn
Sugar?
robots, John.
Sugar? Oh, you thought I was calling you sugar.
See, that's one of those lines that Alexia Goodwin or whatever her name is wrote into the movie specifically
You're fired.
for Will Smith.
Let me borrow your damn ass keys.
Oh man.
Let me borrow your damn ass keys. Man, stop cussing.
Yeah, what is he?
Also,
what are some of the funny things that Shia LaBeouf's character says where he's just like, "She's shit hot, bro.
yeah, she's shit hot, man.
She's shit hot, man."
I got a straight spanky on the line.
What's even funnier about that? And he's like, "Go home and stop cussing because you're not good at it." I guarantee you, in like 5 years, that's how like the young generation is gonna be talking.
They're already what the Sigma? Like they're already saying all this shit.
They're saying the shit that he says in the movie is almost no different than the shit that they would be saying like today.
That's like that's like what kids say on the soccer field now.
Yeah, it's pretty nutty.
It's pretty nutty. Looking over, looking over, looking over, looking over. Oh, fucking! What is up with this stupid ass hat he's wearing? And for like the first like 3/4 of the movie,
The toboggan?
yeah, this weird. It's like it's a regular brimmed hat that he cut the brim off
Yeah, yeah.
and then tucked one ear under.
Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, it's pretty slick. It's very 20. It's like a.
No.
It's exactly what I
No,
would
the
imagine.
Converse are slick.
No, it's exactly what I would imagine a man in 2035 would think somebody cool in 2004 would look like.
I agree, but those Chuck Taylors, those original Converse 2004 edition, those are slick.
Yeah, I do think it's funny.
Those are 20 years old now.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
movie is 20 years old this year.
yeah. Which is absolutely insane. And I think that's what's so funny is that all like the memorabilia that he has, because he's supposed to be like an old head, because he likes old stuff and old technology. So
Yeah.
so he's got like a 2004 JVC, 2004 Converse. His motorcycle is a 2004.
Does this run on
Rocket.
gas? Gas explodes, you know.
Yeah. I really think it's funny that all his memorabilia is 2004 related, just because that's like at the time that was the new shit. So
Yeah.
the idea of it being fun old shit, I think is really funny.
Do you know what I think is really funny?
What do you think is really funny?
When we were growing up, we were like, oh, 2035, that's forever away. We are now closer to that than we are to 2004.
Oh God.
We are 20 years away from 2004 and 11 years away from 2035.
That's insanity.
How does that make you feel, old man?
That's imagine what it's gonna be like, dude. We're gonna be like 40 when it's actually 2035.
Yeah, and we're going to be watching this going, man, isn't that crazy? Alexa, can you order me some pizza?
Oh, yeah, our robots.
Vicky.
Vicky, can you order me some
Get it?
pizza?
Get it, kids? I named her Vicky because of the movie.
Because of that movie that came out 30 years ago. God.
Oh, that's so funny. It's like whenever Back to the Future caught up to 2015.
Oh, I know, and everybody was like flipping shit about it, and everybody
I
was
know,
like, "Where's my self-tying laces? Where's my
I
hoverboard?"
know. And then the Cubs won the World Series 1 year late. They won it in 2016, but if they would have won it in 2015, it would have gone with the Back to the Future 2.
Yeah.
It's so silly.
Yeah, like isn't it funny thinking about how like there's all these future movies and they were like, "Oh man, in like 30 years we're going to have flipping robots."
Yeah, like how Terminator takes place in 2018,
Yeah,
like the
2018.
future scenes.
iRobot takes place in 2035. Back to the Future takes place in 2015, and that's from like movies that took place in like the 80s, right? So
Yeah.
it always had to be 30 years later. Technology
Uh
is just
huh.
gonna fucking jump, and so 2004 is like in 30 years from now we're gonna have fucking
Robots.
self replicating robots, AI. Okay, the AI thing is actually probably
Yeah, I
it's
mean, in
actually
11 years, we'll definitely have AI and robots. I mean, look at where
I
they
mean we
are now.
have
They're
robots.
they're they're pretty not that like
We just don't have the AI to go with the robots yet.
yet.
It hasn't quite synced up.
I think this movie might have hit it on the nail. I think in 11 years it will
This
pretty
this
close.
movie was pretty ahead of its time with some of the things
It's gonna be
it was
funny
trying
if
to
we're
do.
looking back on iRobot as like, man, they just didn't know how close they had it.
Oh, I know. Like, there's actually like things in this movie that, statistically speaking, are actually probably going to take place. Like, for instance, there's like when they go to the diner, like right after USR takes back Sonny from the precinct, and it's the lieutenant and Spooner, and they're in the bar together, or not the bar, but the diner. And there's like a sign that says, "Get this meal." It's like two hash browns, two sausages, two pancakes, or whatever, two waffles for $30.50.
Yeah,
And
I mean
in,
that's right there.
in 2004, that meal would have costed like uh,
$4 or
it was
something.
like $7 or $10 or something. In today's money, of 2024's money, it's like $10 to $15.
Well,
So
as somebody who has worked at restaurants and breakfast places for a long, long time, that would cost you about $24 with a tip.
yeah, with plus tip. So like
Hmm.
$20 probably, like 18 to $20.
Hmm.
So
Roughly, yeah.
by 2035, that is probably exactly, like with the rate of inflation, that is exactly what that is probably going to cost.
Yeah, because he pays for 3 beers and it was $43. But they
Yeah,
did have a tap pay, which we do have now.
which is pretty good. Um,
That's one thing they did get right, where there's just tap to pay.
yeah, he bought 3 rounds of beers for like $15 a round.
Yeah, which is concert prices of beer.
Yeah, for a cheap diner that he went
Yeah,
to.
that's just how it's going to be.
So yeah, iRobot is definitely a lot more ahead of its time than it probably seems like it is.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Well, you have anything else you'd like to say about iRobot?
USR shitting on the little guys.
Yeah. Uh,
And that's when we'd have a little fade out.
dude, we forgot the achoo. I'm sorry, I'm allergic to bullshit. Pro-
Ah, it's just so corny.
probably the
There's so many other good lines.
probably the line I've used the most in my everyday life.
Yeah, but I feel like that was already a thing.
It probably was. I mean, just because it's
Like I feel
corny.
like I've heard that. Yeah, I feel like I've heard that way before I saw that in this movie.
I don't know. That was 20 years ago.
I know, but I mean, I'm sure that's in another movie. I'm sure Eddie Murphy does that in a
I'm
movie before
positive. No,
that.
I'm not. I'm positive this movie is not the apex of that line.
Just where you heard it for the first
Yeah, I was like
doors.
6 when I heard it for the first time. So to me, it was the first thing. It was the first time I've ever heard the line. So it's like, of course, it's the place I associate it with the most. Anyway, iRobot, great movie, fun time, great PG-13 movie to have, where they curse a lot more than I remember them cursing in for a PG-13 movie. Um,
Hey, TV edits.
it's great. Um, but yeah, that is going to be it for the iRobot reviewing talking about portion of the podcast, and we are going to finish off with the picker wheel. Going to be getting our picker wheel set up. So I actually added a couple things to the wheel. Let's see here. Go up one. There we go. So I actually added 2 new movies to the wheel. Obviously, I dropped iRobot. We've got Roadhouse, Lethal Weapon, Transformers, Over the Top, National Treasure, Yojimbo, Deep Blue Sea, RoboCop, and Point Break is the one I added. I was going to add one more.
Hell yeah, you did.
I was going to add one more. Couldn't remember what it was. It was another classic.
Well, can I...
You may.
Am I allowed to add a space?
You may, please.
Can we put Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift up on there, please?
Why? We just did Fast and Furious.
I know, but just in case, because Tokyo Drift is really my favorite one.
Let's get through some of these before we do another Fast and Furious, because I feel like
as
soon as we put Fast and Furious on here, we're gonna get fucked on. Like
You're gonna get fucked on?
We'd get it, and then that would just be it.
All right, what about Looper?
All right, I'll add Looper.
Have you seen Looper before?
Yeah, I'll add Looper.
2012, Bruce Willis.
And then by popular demand,
action sci-fi.
By popular demand, I will add Tomb Raider.
No, hey, I don't want it.
Can't help it. That's what we got. That's what our boy got.
Did I ever tell you that I walked out of like the 2018 Tomb Raider?
Did you know? Was it that?
It's like one of the only movies It's one of the only movies I ever left.
Okay. So, God, we got so many movies on the wheel now. Okay.
Good.
We got to at least knock out 2 or 3 movies before we add any more movies to the wheel.
That's fine.
Oh my God. Okay, Marv, if I add Tokyo Drift, I got to take off Tomb Raider.
Dude, is Marv on my side?
Marv is advocating for Tokyo Drift.
Dude, Marv! Marv, my God!
Lock it in now, Marv. If you say yes, then I'm taking off.
Marv, you don't have to make this sacrifice for me, but I appreciate it if you do.
Okay, he said it's fine.
Dude, Marv, I love you. Hey, Garrett?
Yeah?
Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, pretty much.
The audience has spoken.
Alright, we added Tokyo Drift. Alright, you ready? Go for the spin?
Yes, sir.
And here we go. And we got... Oh, okay. We got Deep Blue Sea.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Okay.
Classic. Absolute banger. Another Marv pick. Oh, Marv is here today.
Yeah. All right, well, that worked out. All right, well, that's going to be it from the Action Jack-Offs this week. Next week, we are doing Deep Blue Sea. We'll be looking forward to that. I hope it's next week. Hopefully, our schedules line up and we actually do next week, because we did 2 weeks in a row pretty decently, so hopefully we can go for 3.
I think that should be good.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and head out of here. That's going to be it from us.
We'll live long and prosper. Thank you, Marv. You're the best.
Peace.